Welcome back to Fantasy Football RPG, your go-to source for all things fantasy football. Join us for expert analysis, top strategies, and the latest insights to help you dominate your league. Let's level up your game and dive into the nitty-gritty. Without further ado, let's get the action.
Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy Football RPG. I am one of your hosts, Mike, and I'm joined by David. Hi, David.
Hi, Mike.
And we are getting into, week 6 is already here. I feel like the season flies by. We wait for it all off season, and you blink and you're halfway there.
Yep, the joys of the 18-week season is that every game means so much, but it's over so quick.
I know. The trade deadline, while it's not almost here, it's coming up. So we're going to talk a little bit about some wide receivers that are likely to be traded or ones that there's just a bunch of buzz around them. And we're going to pick a most likely destination for each of the following players. Listen, David talked to me ahead of time, said that I can't pick the Chiefs every single time. So we're only picking one team. David, let's talk about the one on everybody's mind. Where do you think Davante Adams is going? And then what kind of an impact would that have for fantasy football gamers?
So Davante Adams, right now we've seen some reports out there. The Chiefs, who a lot of people think would be a good fit, myself included, they are reportedly out of it. That's coming from The Athletic. It makes sense the Raiders wouldn't want to give him to a division rival like that. So that basically leaves the Jets as the most likely suitor. I know the Saints were thinking about pursuing him, but with Carr's injury, I'd be surprised if they give up that much when they don't know. They're starting a 5th-round quarterback for at least the next 2 weeks. I know a bunch of people liked Rattler coming out, but the fact of the matter is 32 teams did not. So Either all the decision makers are wrong or it's going to be a rough go for a bit, and the Saints are already 2-3. So Jets, I feel by default is the choice.
Yeah, we've been craving a little bit of Jameis Winston in our lives, a little bit of YOLO ball. We get like a nerfed version of that in New Orleans. So Spencer Rattler has the same swagger, the same I'm going to try to make every throw. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the same arm talent and strength as Jameis Winston, so that'll be fun. I agree the Jets are probably the most likely landing spot. They're the betting favorites on BetMGM right now. Use code LWS250, get $250 in bonus bets. Let's talk about Amari Cooper. Listen, I think this makes a lot of sense for him to go to the Commanders. They're overperforming. They're looking for, depending on how you feel about Terry McLaurin, either a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. Olamide Zaccheaus is not doing it. So I think that he makes a ton of sense for the Commanders with a contract-controlled quarterback, overperforming in their division, and looking to maybe just make a move a little bit early. What is the point of a rookie-scale quarterback if you're not going to push the chips up?
I like the idea of the Commanders going for a wide receiver. I just don't think they'd want to give up the resources for Amari Cooper. Like you said, Mike, they are overachieving. Jaden Daniels looks legit. Maybe he comes back to earth as teams figure him out. Who knows? But if you look at the real problem with the Washington Commanders right now, it's the defense. They do have a lot of resources to spend. They've got a decent amount of cap space. Jaden Daniels, right now, he's probably the biggest value in real life NFL football right now, what he's paying versus the production he's given. But it's not going to matter if the defense can't stop anything. If I'm Washington, I'm probably looking for more of a nice complementary wide receiver to trade for, and I'm putting most of my assets on defense. The team that I think needs Cooper the most is the Kansas City Chiefs, which to me, Rashee Rice done for the year, Marquise Brown done for the year, Xavier Worthy, fun, explosive player. He hasn't proven he can be a target hog yet, which Patrick Mahomes is great, but he needs somebody. Kelsey's come alive the last few weeks, but is the last 2 weeks Kelsey the real deal, or the first 4 weeks of Kelsey the real deal?
Are you implying that Juju Smith-Schuster isn't the option?
Absolutely not. That's a compliment to Andy Reid. I'm not sure if you saw the stat, but Mahomes dropped back 39 times yesterday. He didn't have one tight window throw. And that's just ridiculous when Juju's going for 100 yards. So, Andy Reid, you're a miracle worker, but at the end of the day, players play games, and you can't really get by with Juju being the number 1 or number 2 receiver.
Completely fair. I agree that the Chiefs need to make a move for a receiver. I just, Browns to Chiefs, I don't know if there's a lot of history there with the GMs working together, and then also Amari Cooper brings his own little baggage with him. Like he's bounced around a couple of teams. He's always leaving in a kind of a grumpy manner. The Chiefs are a good vibes team, so I think they're going to keep rolling with that.
And they also employed Tyreek Hill for how many years?
Whoa. Everything was fine there. He's definitely never done anything bad ever. Deontay Johnson, we said, what was it, 2 weeks ago that he didn't have a long-term deal yet? It's been 2 more weeks. They still haven't even talked about a long-term deal. So the trade rumors are going to keep getting louder. Listen, the Buffalo Bills make a ton of sense for him. There are cap concerns. So he is on a $10 million cap hit contract this year. The Bills only have $3 million in space right now. So they would have to work some kind of funky deal there where, the Panthers eat a little bit of the contract. The Bills maybe give a little more draft capital. But, dude, Keon Coleman, fun player, not it. Khalil Shakir, great number 2, number 3. Curtis Samuel, I don't even know if he still has feet. So I just think they need a real guy in the room, and Deontay Johnson could be that.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. This is my dream. I've always been a Deontay Johnson guy.
Yep.
I'm more of a math and numbers spreadsheet type of guy. Deontay Johnson has always gotten targets. He's just never had a real quarterback. Andy Dalton is his best quarterback. All due respect to the husk of Ben Roethlisberger that played in 2020. But the present-day version of Dalton's the best, and you've seen Johnson go off on a bunch of great games with just mediocre quarterback play. Imagine what he can do with Josh Allen and, frankly, nobody else of note. Shakir, like you said, great number 2, good number 3, but nobody else is there. Keon Coleman, maybe he proves me wrong. I was not a fan of his at all coming out, and he hasn't really done enough to dissuade me of that. Curtis Samuel, I'll take the L. I thought he had something left. He doesn't. It's over. Good night, sweet prince.
No feet. Just he's perpetually broken. I will say I'm also a Deontay Johnson fan. I have a little mini helmet back there that now looks like a silly purchase. But listen, the film is good. He's a good football player. I just need him to not, like, if you're making a top 3 list of the best quarterbacks that Deontay Johnson has played with, Devlin Hodges or Mason Rudolph might make that list. And that is very sad. Zay Jones, fresh off a suspension. Cardinals don't really need him. They already have Marv, Trey McBride, Michael Wilson has surprised. Greg Dortch is a lot of fun. So he was my pick to go to the Chiefs. I think that we just flip-flopped our Amari Cooper landing spots. Why do you think the Commanders would want to grab him?
So for me, it's going back to what Washington needs, which right now is defense a lot more than offense. I think we can all agree Jaden Daniels is not going to continue playing at a 2007 Tom Brady efficiency for the remainder of the year, but I still think this offense, I mean, maybe he does. Good for him if he can, but I think it's going to come back to earth a little bit, but I still think this is going to be one of the better offenses no matter who they trade for at wide receiver. So even though Washington does have, plenty of cap space, they have draft picks to trade. My opinion is you use the heavy resources to fix your biggest weaknesses, which is definitely the defense. And you get a player like Zay Jones, a nice complimentary guy who can just go out there, make a few catches a game, but you don't need him to be the offense.
Yep. And Zay Jones on a very easy to move $1.15 million cap hit. I mean, you get him in the building. He makes a couple of plays. You see if you want to keep him around for 2025, or it's pretty easy to just move on and not worry about sunk cost. The trade details for what a Zay Jones move could be like a 6th, 7th swap, a 5th, 6th swap. Like, you're not giving up a lot to go get a guy like Zay Jones. Somebody you may have to give up a little more for. DeAndre Hopkins. Listen, he's approximately 700 years old, but the Titans are trying to evaluate what Will Levis is right now. I understand there's all of this trade buzz around Hopkins because he's a great player that can help elevate a team. But can you accurately figure out what Will Levis is without DeAndre Hopkins?
I mean, in theory, that's what Calvin Ridley's there for, but he's been awful in his own right. And I don't think that's a Levis issue. I think it's just, Tennessee saved New England, go Pats. Yep. They saved New England by just betting the moon for him. So I think the Titans will want to keep Hopkins as long as there's even a shred of hope that Levis turns into something. Obviously, we have our weekly "What the hell are you doing?" plays, but there are there are some like good plays in there too. This isn't a, Bryce Young week 1 and 2 situation where there's no hope whatsoever. But I'd say we're probably leaning towards Levis not being it. And if he comes back, or if this injury he suffered last week, 2 weeks ago, is worse than expected, and he's done for a while, then yeah, I think they trade Hopkins.
What's funny, Titans, they're 1-3. Things are looking bad. They're still only a game back from the Colts. Like, they could be second place in the division pretty soon. The AFC is wide open right now. They could sneak into the playoffs. I'm not saying that they will. If they do move Hopkins, I wrote down the Rams as a good landing spot. Listen, Puka, consistently banged up. I think he's only played 1 full season since he graduated high school. Cooper Kupp, not a spring chicken. They're definitely going to need somebody in the room so that if he goes down again, they have a solution. And then 3, like, the Rams refuse to not compete. As long as Stafford's in the building, Sean McVay's in the building, they're going to keep just throwing things at the wall and try to compete. And they need an alpha receiver on the outside that can earn targets. Like, Cooper Kupp is a great separator and is able to work in the short and intermediate field. Puka Nacua, great run after the catch guy, also does better in a slot type scenario. So you can just line Hopkins up on the outside and maybe make him like a sacrificial X that can actually win. So I think it would elevate the team a little bit and shouldn't be too expensive, but more expensive than Zay Jones. How do you like the Rams pick?
The Rams are a good choice. I could see that because, personally speaking, if I were running the Rams, I'd say this probably isn't our year. I'm not going to give up anything for another older receiver. But like you said, Los Angeles doesn't operate that way. They could definitely make a move. I think it'd fit well in that scheme. My vote is probably for the Chargers on this one, just because they got rid of Mike Williams, they got rid of Keenan Allen, and they just bet the house, on
the horse.
Yeah, they bet the entire Denver Broncos on it. But
Yep.
no, they bet everything on second round pick Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson being good enough. And there are flashes. Like, Quentin Johnson has done a lot more than I thought he could this year. I thought it was all over. But they're still very inexperienced guys. Justin Herbert is basically playing on one leg right now. He's really hurt. He needs help. You're not going to catch the Chiefs. They're 5-0. You're 2-2. Give up the AFC West. But the wild card is wide open. There's 3 spots. And if you assume Herbert gets healthy, gets better, he'll need a veteran who can know what to do, win those jump balls, just really go out there, be a reliable target. And that's basically what Hopkins is at this point. Obviously, nobody's saying 2018 Hopkins is still in there, but just getting somebody.
Is there a better mentor for Ladd McConkey than DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, just super similar play styles. You have one's the jump ball king, and then Ladd McConkey, who I don't think he's ever won a jump ball in his life. From making a receiver room, it makes a ton of sense. Like, they have very different skill sets, but hopefully Hopkins would be able to elevate that team slightly. And Harbaugh, he's not going to pass the ball. Greg Roman, he's not going to pass the ball. But when they do, having a guy that can go get a play action shot, probably important. Moving on down the list, David, I'm going to yell at you. You put Odell Beckham Jr. on this list. Why? I don't. If he gets traded, who cares?
Yeah, no, this is definitely, hey, it could happen, and name recognition. If you still have him in Dynasty and he goes somewhere fun, see if someone's willing to give you a 4th-round pick for him. It's worth it. But 1-year deal, Miami it's over. Like, they barely beat the Patriots. That's just unforgivable. You need to crush New England every chance you get, especially when Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback. So they're not going anywhere this year. Maybe OBJ goes somewhere fun.
If I may offer, I know that we all want to say the Dolphins, it's Jover, it's done. Their bye is coming up, and Sleeper put out a report saying that Tua is likely to come back after the bye or as early as his IR is over. They're 2-3. First place in the AFC East is 3-2. Not saying that they could make a run. I'm saying it's not completely over, but Odell Beckham doesn't move the needle for anybody. I agree. The moment that you get the blurb from Sleeper, like, teams interested in Odell Beckham, find the fool in your league and go trade him for literally anything. I'd trade him for $8 a fab. But cool. Christian Kirk, my pick here. Denver Broncos. You need to better be able to evaluate what Bo Nix is. And this Broncos receiver room is disgusting right now. You have Cortland Sutton, who's a big old X that likes to just go lumber out there and catch 6 of the 14 targets that he gets. You need a separator in the short and intermediate areas of the field. And Christian Kirk, as much as we like to hate him because of his silly contract, now he's making less than Jerry Jeudy. So if the Jaguars continue to collapse, which I know you wrote up a possible trade if that happens, go check that out over at Last Word on Sports. I think the Broncos make a ton of sense. Do you have a different team in mind?
No, I'm with the Broncos on this one too. Obviously, well, Denver is 3-2, but I think we can all agree, even
Kind
if
of fluky.
this keeps up, they're not real contenders.
No.
You got to you have in Bo Nix. Cortland Sutton is a good receiver for a certain type of quarterback. Bo Nix is not that quarterback. You need someone, just a gunslinger who just YOLO balls it all the time to get the most out of Sutton. Bo Nix is the most cautious passer probably in the league, which is pretty embarrassing when he's throwing so many picks. Not a Bo Nix, full disclosure.
I don't think either of us are.
Yeah. If he's going to work out, he needs somebody like Kirk, because I'm not really buying into all of Denver's young receivers. They haven't really done it for me, and I know the quarterback situation's not great right now, but still, you need to see more with Kirk. You don't have a superstar, but you have someone, which is, if Bo Nix is going to work out, give him somebody to throw the ball to.
I will say, if Kirk gets moved, redraft, probably not moving the needle for me. Like, he's going to go from getting a bunch of targets from Trevor Lawrence to a bunch of targets from Bo Nix. Like, that's not an upgrade by any imagination. But dynasty, if Bo Nix takes a step forward next year, if he becomes the clear number 1 target in the offense, like, I think he's starting to get kind of just like little brothered by Brian Thomas Jr., which is fine because Brian Thomas Jr. is amazing and I love him. But maybe a change of scenery could allow him to continue his PPR scam for longer. Cool. Moving on down, T. Higgins. Dude, the Bengals are bad. Like, the defense is bad.
So this is, if you've been following the Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert debate, this year is not a good year to have that talk because Herbert's like basically dead. But the argument for so long was like, well, Herbert would be great if he was in such and such a system. And Burrow stands, he's got the numbers and he's got the wins. This is why Justin Herbert doesn't have the wins, okay? Joe Burrow's defense, he's finally dealing with what Herbert has to deal with on an annual basis. And like Herbert, and credit where credit's due, Burrow's playing like, the season of his career. It's just not enough when the defense is that atrocious.
Yeah, I love the mental hurdles that people are going through. For years and years, we were like, oh, Joe Burrow got to a Super Bowl. He got all these wins. Like, the accolades matter more. And then Justin Herbert and Josh Allen fans were like, no, dude, if they had the Bengals defense in the playoffs, they would be in the Super Bowl too. Now Joe Burrow, he's leading the league in EPA per play. He's leading the league in all sorts of advanced metrics. He looks good. The offense is back. But the defense is so bad. They're, 1-4 right now? So
yeah, I mean, if you ever needed proof wins are not a quarterback stat, like, here you go. This is the best Joe Burrow we've ever seen, and they're basically out of the playoffs entering week 6.
Crazy. So if they continue to collapse, I could see T. Higgins going, listen, he could go to the Giants. The Giants have Malik Neighbors, ascending superstar. They have Wan'Dale Robinson, PPR scam artist. They need a prototypical guy on the outside. And what does that sound like? T. Higgins. Every time he catches the ball, you kind of think is a tight end for a second. So put the big guy on the outside. Let either the defense adjust to Malik Neighbors and all of the speed that he brings, Wan'Dale Robinson in the short and intermediate area, or T. Higgins. They can't cover all of them. So I could see the Giants making a move like that because they're going to play themselves into a position where Daniel Jones is going to be stuck with them. So might as well make the most of it.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that myself, but then when we were talking before the show, you put the Giants on there, and I love that. It's great. Brian Daboll, I think, is a really good offensive coach. He just has Daniel Jones holding him back. And they're kind of stuck in that purgatory where Daboll makes them too good to get a top 3 pick, but Jones makes them too bad to be a real team. So
you're talking to a Steelers fan. I get it.
it. Yeah,
this is my life.
Steelers right now. So, get Higgins, get Neighbors and Robinson. That's a phenomenal trio. And chances are, I haven't taken a close look at the 2025 quarterback draft class yet. So this is more or less hearsay, but I'm hearing it's not a great quarterback class. Chances are, the middle of the first year, yeah, middle of the first year, probably not going to have a guy that you love. So maybe Jones is back for another year, or maybe, hey, Andy Dalton's a free agent. We've seen what he can do with the Panthers. That's a fine bridge quarterback. Draft a guy in the first, and with those weapons, you're probably competing next year.
Yep. As of right now, from Tankathon, the Giants are projected to have the 15th overall pick. This is based on their current win percentage and their strength of schedule on the way out. I could see them. It would be organizational suicide, but they could take a swing on a Shedeur Sanders. They could take a swing, like maybe Cam Ward falls. Like there are a couple of options that I could see the Giants pulling the trigger on, but I would rather wait until 2026. Really go get a guy that you feel good about. And when you have a wide receiver room that's built for the future, that's when you can afford to push the chips in and go get a guy, as opposed to, well, we only have Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, so it'll be fine.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out as a little added honorable mention, the New England Patriots, because we're talking about what the Giants do, like if they don't have their quarterback. The Patriots have theirs. He's going to be starting next week for better or worse.
Yep.
And right now it's Drake May, who I absolutely adored as a prospect, even before the Patriots took him.
Yep.
Anyone in the Last Word on NFL Discord can vouch that my Christmas was ruined because the Patriots beat the Broncos, and I thought they'd lose their shot at May for it.
Yep.
So I think he's very much the real deal, but he's playing behind a horrible offensive line with weapons that, not great. Like Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, they're fine complementary guys. They're not a true star like Higgins and Jalen Polk. The advanced metrics are really good. They're saying he's separating well. Film backs it up, but is that just he's doing well getting open, or do defenses not even need to pretend to care about the passing game because Brissett can't throw it more than 5 yards?
I will say, if it was Polk and every other Patriots receiver was separating well, then I'd be worried about it. But I think Polk, his ass stands alone by itself. So great ass. You love to see it. What would a T. Higgins move to? So redraft perspective, I think both of those would be a downgrade, like leaving Joe Burrow. Horrifying situation. But dynasty, going to the Patriots to beat the number one sounds like the ideal situation. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, because full disclosure, everybody out there, he's not a Bengal next year. That's written in stone.
Yeah.
So he's going to be changing teams. If he's going anywhere, why not New England? Again, this has to do with what you believe Drake May is. I think he's legit. I think he's a great downfield passer, which meshes perfectly with what Higgins can do. And there's no real target competition out there. Nobody for that role. I think it would be a perfect fit.
Yep. I made a little compilation. So if you guys listen to this, head over to our shorts. There's a compilation of Drake May dropped passes from his receivers in college where T. Higgins catches all of those, and Drake May is in the Heisman talks. Instead, he was throwing to Devontae Walker, who he just has 2 lacrosse sticks attached to his hands. So last one, Romeo Doubs sitting out of practice because he wasn't getting enough opportunities. Hilarious because he's maybe the 3rd or 4th best receiver on the team and was getting the most opportunities. I think a team that makes a medium amount of sense for him to get traded to would be the Baltimore Ravens. His skill set, as much as we like to make fun of him in the fantasy community, he's a good run blocker. He makes the right plays, and he's fine in contested catch situations. What do the Ravens need right now? You need a good run blocker, a guy that's fine in contested catch situations, and can stay on the field a bunch. So Baltimore Ravens makes sense for me. What do you think for Romeo Doubs?
I absolutely love the Ravens there too, just because Doubs is one of those guys. He's a lot better at real life football than he is fantasy football. Yep. There's no harm in that. The dude needs to make a paycheck. But Baltimore, like you said, fits everything he needs. And from a target standpoint, it's probably going to be better for him over there. Mark Andrews, he's gone. Zay Flowers, he's getting his targets. But Bateman is, still one of those guys that, if you look at the analytics and look at the numbers, everybody loves him. But if you look at what he does on a weekly basis, it's not happening. Maybe not ever, definitely not in Baltimore. So he'll get on the field, and who doesn't want to catch passes from Lamar Jackson?
Completely fair. What's wild to me about the Bateman conversation is that every time I watch him, I'm like, oh my God, that's a great receiver. Separating, getting open, calling for the ball. Did he punch Lamar Jackson or something? I don't understand.
like I see the same thing everyone else does, but my like in fantasy, it's important to know your strengths and know your weaknesses. Like I'm decent at film, but there are people that know it a lot better than me. So and some of those people are NFL coaches, and the Baltimore Ravens have a good coach in John Harbaugh. They've had multiple offensive coordinators who have all said, "I'm not featuring Rashad Bateman." They have a two-time MVP quarterback, Lamar Jackson, who says, "I'm not throwing it to Lamar. I'm not throwing it to Rashad Bateman." So therefore, there's something I'm missing.
Yep. All right. Well, that does it for all of the players on the wide receiver trade market for this week. We'll be back either next week or in 2 weeks to give you a little update as we're going through. David, thanks for joining me. Listeners at home, go to Last Word on Sports. You want to say anything to people at home?
No, just, make sure to set your lineups. Thursday Night Football is right now.
All right. We're putting this out on Friday, so hope you set your lineups.
I hope you had already set your lineups.
We are sending this into the ether. Set your lineups. Hear us from our mom's basements. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Football RPG Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at FFRPGPod and at FFMikeCash with a K. Don't let the goblins get you. See you next week.